Welcome to Cisilian's M365 E7, the Frontier Suite webinar. I'm joined by a few of my colleagues today. I'll let you introduce yourselves.
Thanks, Tori. Good morning. Great to be presenting you today. I'm Minnie Biswas, an AI and security specialist at Cisilion. And I've been in the industry for about 16 years or so. And I sit in the intersection of modern work, AI and security, basically helping organizations move sort of beyond experimenting with AI and start making it part of their operating model, especially with safety in mind and with confidence. We work very closely with Microsoft. So, Cisilion hold the Microsoft Copilot Advanced Specialization. We're also part of the Microsoft Jumpstart program. And we're also part of a small selected group with the Copilot TAP program, which means we get early insight into capabilities before they go live. So I will pass over to Mark next. He'll do an introduction and then we'll take it from there. Mark, you're
Mark.
Mute, buddy.
There's always one.
There's always one, isn't there? There's always one. So we'll try again.
Right for teasing me during this dry run.
Yes, good morning, everybody. Mark Lofthouse. I'm part of Cisilian's pre-sales team, Microsoft Solution Architect, looking across the Microsoft 365 suite, which obviously includes Copilot now. So productivity, security, and Copilot. Sorry, back to you.
Thanks, Mark. So you'll notice everyone calls me Tori, for those of you that don't know me already, but my official title is Victoria. I've been at Cisilion for just under 7 years now and have done Microsoft licensing for more years than I'm going to admit on this webinar. Proud to run the practice at Cisilion. I'll take you guys through product licensing, some promos and some indicative pricing. Thank you for joining, and I'll hand over to Minnie after I explain what we're going to cover today. So as it says on the tin, all about Frontier Suite, but more around how can Cisilion help with these new products that are coming to market, new challenges around purchasing, and the many flavors of purchasing, but really focusing today on the E5 Plus Entra Suite, Copilot, of course. Only took a few minutes to mention AI, but that was probably inevitable. Lots of focus on Microsoft Agent 365 and a mention on the work IP piece as well. So kicking us off today is Minnie. So I'll hand over to you, Minnie, and I'll speak to you all shortly.
Thank you so much, Tori. So I've been obviously in this industry quite a while now, and even the earlier part of my journey from the BPOS days, the early Office 365 days, talking E1s, E3s, E5s, and now we've got an E7 plan. It's something I've been actually personally predicting for a while. I'm sure many of you have been over the years. And this context matters. The reason for that is what we're talking about today isn't just a sudden leap or a rebrand. It's the next logical step in how AI becomes embedded into the way organizations actually work. So, it's not just something that we've been trying on the side for a while. Obviously, the E5, E3 plans had Copilot Chat embedded in. There's obviously been the paid version of Copilot people have been adding on top. With E7, with Copilot now being integrated into the plan, it allows organizations to kind of start looking at this on a deeper level. And, let's start with Copilot, and obviously let's start with some of these pillars that are showcasing to you. So Work IQ, I'm not sure if this is a terminology you've been hearing more of, but recently Microsoft's been talking a lot about this. And what this essentially means is it gives AI the context of work. So looking at, the relationships, the collaboration, the priorities, the patterns, our tone of voice, so Copilot can essentially look at our work ethics and how we're working today, obviously within that Microsoft 365 ecosystem and tenant. And is essentially giving it context. Microsoft selects the best model for the task as well, rather than relying on the single model for everything. And this is also a huge important shift, that Copilot is multi-model. From the conversations I've been having with organizations where we're looking at Microsoft essentially being compared to other third-party Gen AI tools out there, like the Anthropics, like the ChatGPTs, like any other models, now Microsoft have multi-model within their offering actually allows Microsoft to be able to offer you a lot of that multi-model depending on the type of task, type of agent you're trying to create. And that's been a lot of winning of market share from Microsoft's side. Importantly, with that in mind, it's all built within that security and security management wraparound. So organizations can actually scale that adoption with confidence. And the key takeaway here is Copilot isn't just a bolt-on tool. It's the foundation for how AI operates securely at work. So if you're already invested heavily in that ecosystem, E7 is a logical evolution, and one we have obviously been expecting to see for some time as well. Now, if I move over to where Copilot is embedded, I mean, I'm not here to teach you how to suck eggs or anything like that, but one reason Copilot adoption is accelerating, and it's basically looking at how tasks are being managed by users. Now, in terms of AI meeting users directly inside these tools, such as Outlook, Teams, Word, and Excel, rather than sitting in a separate interface, you can actually start to see the button appear, and having that within obviously the E7 ecosystem takes that next level up from just a Copilot chat to actually the paid version of Copilot with that work IQ all embedded in. And that's when Microsoft talk about AI in the flow of work. That's essentially what you're getting as part of this tool. It's reducing that friction, it's reducing that context switching, and makes that adoption feel more natural. And for customers, it's critical because value appears when AI fits seamlessly into your day-to-day work. And I guess the key takeaway here is adoption is easier because Copilot is basically working where the people already are. So if we now start to look at agents, obviously building on that Copilot foundation, Microsoft has now introduced pre-built agents, especially within the paid version of Copilot, which now sits in E7. These aren't generic bots. They're actually purpose-built capabilities designed to support things like research, analysis, content creation, collaboration. You'll start to see lots more appear over time. And these are embedded directly into the tools people are already using. But the real story here isn't sort of individual agents themselves, it's the shift of how AI is used at work. So from helping individuals in isolation is probably, where some of your organizations have also seen happen. It's actually now looking to kind of go across the teams and business processes in context. So you'll start to see agents being used within departments, within multiple departments, and as organizations, as the overall value, you'll start to see not just individual layer or department layer, you start to see some of that ROI from an organizational point of view. And that's a powerful step forward in what Microsoft's offering here, because it's also a moment where you get a lot of that oversight and governance to go with this. And agents really are looking to unlock that real value, but only if organizations understand what they're using it for and how to introduce them responsibly. In terms of how Cisilion fits within all of this, so I've spoken a lot about the E7 and Microsoft and being a little bit more producty, but this is a real big impactful slide I want to showcase to you. So this is where Cisilion actually get involved. My role particularly, I've been invested in as a role as an AI specialist at Cisilion. And we tend to work with organizations once the initial excitement around AI wears off. Also we work with the AI advisory on Art of the Possible, but we then start to work with organizations on those harder questions, which when they start to surface of what should we use, who owns it, what can it access, how do we stop it going wrong, what are the type of use cases we should be exploring this tool as to use. And our work consistently falls into 4 of these key pillars, the main one being AI advisory. And this is where we're helping leaders make those early decisions they don't have to unpick later. So we're kind of separating genuinely useful use cases from the noise and kind of looking at that foundational layer of what's in place, and doing some discovery work to actually understand what is it that the organizations are trying to achieve with using a tool like this. The next pillar is deployment security governance. So putting things like boundaries in place before AI is introduced, looking at the likes of, DSPM for AI tooling within Purview, or looking at, lots of different things like stale data within SharePoint, or looking at what users have access to in terms of any sensitive type of information. So be it, SharePoint, be it, overall security posture, looking at compliance. These are the type of things that, Cisilion really looking under the hood of where your organization is operating. Then we've got adoption and change, and this has been a massive part of what we offer, not just with looking at training and adoption, but also making sure people actually understand what AI is doing, what it isn't, and how it fits into your day-to-day work. And the final pillar here is sort of building and managing agentic solutions, supporting organizations as AI starts to take that repeatable task or operational responsibility. We're kind of looking at, not just looking at discovery work, but actually understanding a little bit more around what are these agents are trying, what you are looking to build these agents for, and actually then going ahead and deploying it for you. So we're not just focused on pilots for the sake of it. We actually help organizations put AI into use in a way that they can generally stand behind, from use case discovery to agent deployment. Now, if we go into some of the workshops I personally run, actually, to ground this in reality, over the last 12 months alone, I've actually delivered well over 100 AI Copilot security workshops across a wide range of sectors and types of organizations and industries. And this includes, regulated environments like local government and public sector, as well as professional services and commercial type of organizations as well. And we're seeing agentic AI used in really practical, genuine ways and creative ways as well, from also supporting frontline social workers within, say, council environments, to external facing agents helping users navigate forms and services on, say, a government website. That's a not-for-profit customer that we've got. So we've got lots of different types of use cases now coming up, from one agent to kind of spanning out to multiple agents when they start to showcase that ROI. And what's consistent across all these engagements is that organizations are actually seeing that progress, and actually they're not treating AI as a standalone technology decision. They're looking at how this blends into that business value and organizational vision and that transformation journey that they're starting to go on. And alongside people and process security governance, what it's allowing is AI is kind of moving beyond pilots and actually into something more running of operations and into day to day, which is what we're now seeing in terms of some people are in different journeys of their spectrum of using AI. Some are still at the starting point, some are sort of midway, some are already fully using it, deploying it, and constantly adding more to their agent list. And what I would like to actually invite you all to try, and this is optional, if you haven't already tried Copilot Chat already, or if your organization as a whole has some power users, but you want to kind of get to a level where most of your users could do with just testing Copilot Chat a little bit more, then this is something, a good moment to maybe even try it and get a feel for how Copilot Chat works in practice. So I've actually got a 2-minute upgrade prompt, which is a couple of lines that I'll put in the chat. This is something, if you would like to explore and you want to use a prompt in your Copilot Chat, then I'll put it in the chat for you to kind of give it a go. There's no pressure to do this right now, by the way. By all means, you could do this whenever you want. But this is the reason I'm showcasing this is basically to show you the direction we're heading in how quickly it is to, save a prompt, make your own prompt, give Copilot Chat a try. These are just some of the logos that we put in here, some of our clients that have worked with us on any form of AI adoption already. And these span, with organizations and industries from legal to financial, public sector, healthcare, not-for-profit. kind of all navigating AI adoption in different ways. And while the environments differ, the conversation we're having is broadly the same in terms of how to move forward with AI in a way that's safe, practical, and sustainable. And the key takeaway here is that you're not alone. Others are working through some of these same AI questions and AI transformations. And this slide just gives a flavor of what our AI advisory engagements produce in practice. So if this is something of interest that you want to explore an envisioning workshop or kind of work with us on this journey of AI, starting your journey in exploring it, then, we create, these are just some of the sample outputs from solution assessments to creating an AI transformation roadmap with you, looking at those scenario priority use cases, and actually look at business case builders as well to kind of look at the ROI in respect of where your AI transformation leads and how much efficiency gains can be made of using a tool with this. So we're kind of focusing on that clarity, aligning business, IT, and security around realistic use cases and next steps as well. So this kind of brings us to one of the reasons why E7, so bringing this back to where E7 comes in. As AI becomes part of everyday work, organizations aren't just managing users anymore, they're also managing agents acting on their behalf. And those agents access the same data, applications, and systems as people do. So E7 introduces a control panel for AI adoption, providing that visibility, governance, protection across both users and agents. It's something my colleague Mark will go into a little bit more detail. But it's not about slowing innovation. This whole governance piece is good to have, obviously, especially from a Microsoft ecosystem perspective. And if you're invested in the 365 portfolio, this is just the next level. This is just all already included in. It's about enabling AI to scale safely. And you'll hopefully feel more confident allowing agents to be published as well, not just created in the background. And this is the key difference between organizations experimenting with AI and those preparing to move forwards with it long term. So before we also move on, I do want to also briefly touch on Microsoft and where it's heading next, because direction matters. And you're probably hearing a lot of the term Copilot co-work or co-work just generally being used right now. And co-work represents a shift from asking AI things to kind of delegating work. So when we talk about autonomous working, when we talk about actual delegation of work, not just a chat component of Copilot, this is where sort of that direction is heading. So even though it's kind of pre-release in the Frontier firm, if you're part of that preview feature, this is something that is up and coming. So instead of saying, write me an email, you describe the outcome, the system plans reasons across your tools and files and carries that work forward over time. And importantly, that observable, controllable element of it is all included, or will be included within Microsoft's ecosystem. So think this as a directional signal, not something I'm promising is broadly available today, but that direction matters because it tells us the operating model is becoming, more and more, and why foundations like WorkIQ or governance and E7 is, really important for the longer term plans. And with that, I will hand over to my colleague, Mark Lofthouse, who will now take you through Agent 365 and how that control plane comes into life.
Good morning, everybody. So like Minu's just explained, obviously we're seeing a great growth in agents across the industry, and IDC have come up with a number 1.3 billion agents in production by 2028. So within 2 years' time, 1.3 billion agents across industry in environment. Now, if we think about where we are at the minute, we're seeing organizations build 1 or 2 agents, but that's growing at an exponential rate. So for example, a HR department would have maybe 3 or more agents for booking holidays, benefits, queries, sick leave assessments, you name it. Departments will have multiple agents to manage. So 1.3 billion is a big number, but we could definitely see that being hit sooner rather than later, and the complexity and skills in those agents growing rapidly over the next couple of years. So Microsoft have seen this problem because, as you can imagine, managing that number of agents across an enterprise isn't a small thing. Those agents will be critical, so they'll drive revenue, they'll drive business change, business adoption, and generally manage how people work. So that's where Agent 365 comes into play. So if we look at what we need to do with an agent at the minute, if somebody creates an agent in the environment, we need to check it's secure. We need to check what data it's accessing, if it's accessing that data in a secure manner, and what happens if that agent goes rogue, or it's programmed to go rogue. How do we stop that and defend against it? Now, if we look at those pillars we've got there, those are things we already do with users on a daily basis. So we secure their identities, we make sure their data is protected and it can't be leaked outside the business. We look at what activities are happening, what data they're accessing, how it's being sent, how much they're downloading, what files are being edited. All those things that we do in it with a user, we now need to do with an agent. The tools that we use to do that, and we've spent in Cisilion, we've spent the last probably 18 months, 2 years working with customers to get these pillars organized, managed and understood more. So the admin center, where you would log in, add a user, license a user, delete a user. Defender, where we can look at the security posture of a user, look at what threats they're doing. Entra to log in, conditional access, risk management, and then Purview for data protection, data management, archive no data. Now, it just makes perfect sense to use those same four tools into manage an agent. And that's exactly what Microsoft have done with Agent 365. So we're now surfacing information from all the agents that have been created in the enterprise. What are they doing? What rules, what safeguards are in place to ensure that we can manage agents at scale? Not the 1 or 2 that we've got at the minute, but the thousands that will exist in the enterprise within a year's time. So if you can imagine and put yourself in a picture of an enterprise where you've got thousands of agents, who has them? What are they doing? What's the risk? What agents talk to each other? And what data is being accessed to those agents? At the minute, we're relying on probably the developer of the agent to tell us that, or spending time going into the agent and trying to deduce manually what is happening with those agents. So this is what Agent 365 does. It looks across the enterprise, finds every agent that's in use, brings to the surface what data it's accessing, how agents are operating together, and then looks at security posture of those agents. So are they accessing things they shouldn't? Are they being run by risky users? Are they being run outside the organization? Even strange things like how many times an agent's being run. You know, if you've got an agent in a HR department example that books holidays and it normally is run once or twice a day, why did it run 6,000 times yesterday? So all those things are analysed by the back end, by Purview, by Defender, and then surfaced into Agent 365. So if we break this down into the 3 pillars, if you like, the first one, like I said, is managing agents. So seeing what agents are out there. You can't manage what you don't know. So the first thing is to observe what's there, bring the agents to the surface, find their owners. If we've got an organization where everybody can create an agent, who is managing them when they leave? What agents are ownerless? What agents are now business critical? We don't know anything about them. That is all what's surfaced with Agent 365. Then the governance through a life cycle of an agent. So, you know, it was created by an individual in a specific department, HR, finance, retail. That person has now left the organization. Who's it handed over to now? Who runs it now? You know, is it still used? Does it still need to be there? Is it safe? All those questions we need to ask about agents. And then the last pillar of securing them. So making sure they're only accessing the data they're supposed to be accessing. Are they reaching outside the organisation for information? Is it the right information? Is it safe to do so? All those things as an enterprise we need to understand, but at the minute it's a difficult picture. So I've just put a quick snapshot in here of what Agent 365 looks like, and this gives us the paints a bit of picture of me just talking about what we've got. So in this environment, we can see there's 26,000 agents being used by 60,000 users. Big numbers, but that's what we're probably looking at within 2 years' time. What time has been used by an agent, or what time has been saved by using agents? So this gives you the ROI back to the business for the investment in these E7 Copilot licenses. Who published the agent and what platform they run on. So we're seeing a big scale out now, not only in-house created agents, but agents that have been created by Workday, ServiceNow, all the payroll and HR providers, agents. So where are they? Who manages them? Who owns them? Use over time. The most popular agents in the business. So in this example, the claims processing agent, so that's probably expenses or something in an insurance industry, 11,000 uses a day. It's quite a critical agent if that suddenly stops working overnight. So the business now has sight of making sure we know what that agent is. And then at the bottom here, request for agents to be published. So somebody's created an agent, needs to be published to the business. We could start the process of understanding who it is, how we've managed, what the risks are. Risks. So this is where Microsoft Defender is looking what an agent is doing. Is it doing something that it shouldn't be doing, or we don't like it doing? And then we can drill into that further and understand what policies applied. Owners agents. So I touched on that very quickly earlier, but in like all applications in a business, and we've seen it over previous years with the Power Platform and Power Apps, somebody needs to own them. So when we have a problem, we can go to that owner and get that rectified. If an agent doesn't have an owner, we've got problems. So it's highlighting agents without owners and exceptions as well. So this is again where the security suite, so Defender and Purview together, are looking at what data has been accessed, what it started doing strangely from an AI perspective that you didn't expect it to do. So if it accessed the database for payroll information, should it be doing that? So this is what we don't have at the minute in Microsoft 365. We can create agents, we can publish them, but we don't actually have active details about what they're doing, and that's what Agent 365 is going to do. That's released the 1st of May with the rest of the suite and included in E7. We're already seeing from our conversations with Microsoft that this will grow massively over the next 2 years, where the more telemetry we can get from an agent, the better. So we can start looking at agent run times. So this agent normally runs for 30 seconds a minute. It's now been running for 5 minutes. Let's jump on that and see what's going on, because agents will be critical to business moving forward. They're not just a toy that's there in the background. They will actually be performing business roles. So, like I mentioned, this is coming GA 1st of May, included in the E7 suite, but will also be available as an add-on if you wanted to buy it separately. But as I'm sure as Tori will run through in a minute, the offers to include that in the suite make that much better. So I'll hand it back to you, Tori, and you can run through what we're doing with licensing.
Thanks. Appreciate that. What we all need, another dashboard.
Yeah.
So moving forward, I guess it would be good to talk about the pace of change. We don't just buy platforms and dashboards anymore. We buy products that continue to evolve. So from a product perspective, I've got a little slide that will demonstrate the pace of change. It's busy, which is why I paused before showing it. But if anything, that kind of demonstrates the change that we've seen between 2022 and today, all very much focused around productivity, security, and of course, AI. We're not buying static products anymore and looking at a pace of change that we can control within our own organisations. We're buying products and services that continue to evolve, and our job is to keep up with that pace of change. Cisilion offer very much consultancy-led services, and I'll talk a little bit more about the ways in which we engage, but no doubt that's been demonstrated by my colleagues as they've taken you through the changes and the impacts that they're going to have to your organisations. So focusing in on product changes and a little bit of commercials, I'll talk about different promos and products agreements that you can purchase the products on the next slide. But as you can see, Microsoft's goal is to demonstrate the value of bundling products together to improve your return on investment at a lower price point. So lots of organisations are consuming Copilot and E5. So without any additional investment, you can see the step up to an E7 is not much higher. If you are using some of the other products, such as Entra and Agent 365, when it's available for purchase at $15, it's a simple case of, if you're bundling 1, 2, 3 products, that's best value for money, and you can benefit from all of the additional features. So talking a little bit about the pricing, let's get into what does that mean to us from a consumption perspective. So Microsoft have released 3 different purchase methods for annual and triannual. This is relevant whether you're an EA customer or a CSP customer. Doesn't take into consideration what's coming, which is obviously July. Microsoft are putting the price of E5 up, which only in effect bridges the gap even stronger between the commercials on E7 versus an E5 with Copilot. EA customers are used to having the ability to predict their pricing for 3 years, but also have a true up where they can increase, decrease their license counts. So at Cisilion, we will work with organisations to help them continue to manage their licenses in the way that they're used to. So talking about promos, you've obviously got a lower entry point for a 1 year price protection at 10 users with a slightly lower discount level versus a 15% for 100 seat minimum. And then finally, for the triannual SKU, the price point and discount is higher for the duration, but the minimum seat count commit is 3 times higher at 300 users. So what does that mean in the real world? It means that you can buy 1, 2, 3, and that's what we would encourage and work through with organisations to help determine which commitment term for which number of users is the best for your organisation. It's not an all or nothing. Not all of your users need to be consuming every single product. Perhaps you've got some frontline users, you've got some users that will remain on E5. So actually persona mapping out and having some smart procurement conversations around what number of users do we commit to a multi-year term, such as 3 years with that 300 user price point. What users do we leave on an annual, giving you that true up ability that you currently have with enterprise agreement, predictability, change. Cisilion won't just leave you to your own devices after an initial sale. We will work with you to look at the renewals. So how many users should we keep at the anniversary on a 3 year versus an annual price point? What does that do from a commercial perspective? It gives you the ability to budget, forecast, because as long as you've got some of the minimum commit, that gives you the ability to predict that price for the duration of that commitment term. So how does that work? Well, as I've said, and with my colleagues on the line, we are very much a consultancy-led organisation. We operate on pretty much a one-to-one ratio of sales versus pre-sales. So definitely a tech-heavy organisation. It's one of my favourite things about working at Cisilion is the ability to actually spend time with our clients and add real value opposed to just sending out pricing on a frequent basis. So from my team perspective, we offer monthly spotlights. You've got a dedicated alignment to resource, so you'll know who you're working with. They'll know your environment and will be in an ideal world, in your minds, an extension to your team. That gives you the ability to relax because someone else is going to make sure that you're being well managed, providing you with predictable costs, forecasting any renewals, talking about different types of incentives and eligibilities, which Minnie covered. And of course, from a technical pre-sales perspective, someone to provide demonstrations of the screenshots that Mark kindly showed during his part of the session around Agent 365, show and tell, workshops. So please do reach out if you'd like us to engage and expand on any area that we've discussed as part of this webinar today. On that note, I thank you all for your time. Thank my colleagues for putting this presentation together with me. Of course, we've got marketing behind the scenes, so they need a mention. So Natasha, Morgan, thank you for your efforts in putting this together. Minnie, Mark, pleasure as always. Let me know if you've got any closing comments that you want to add.
I think Tori, we've got a Q&A pop up as well. I think one from Dean, if you wouldn't mind answering that. This is a licensing one. He's asked, have Microsoft disclosed when, if there will be an NFP discount on E7 yet? If you wouldn't,
they haven't
know that.
But
okay.
There is a channel update tomorrow afternoon, so watch this space and we will provide a follow-up to you, Dean, as soon as we know the answer.
Thumbs up. I guess, we're here. It's an open forum as well. I guess if anyone wants to ask any more questions, we're here for a couple of minutes, and more than happy to kind of share through any resources and share some insights as we have more scoping discussions with you guys. So yeah, I guess on this note of E7, coming out, it'll be good to kind of see some reactions or any feedback as well you have of anything else that doesn't make sense or makes sense, or if there's anything you would like us to kind of go into any deep dive, do just shout about it. It'll be good for us to just get that in the background and kind of remember for next time we'll share it after the webinar. So please do give us feedback as well. That'd be great.
Great shout, Manny. It's also worth mentioning that we've got a history of webinars and there will be more forthcoming. So if you've got any interest in any of the previous webinars we provided around like the July price increase, then please do view the series and reach out. Okay, so on that note, time to say thank you for taking the time to attend today. Hopefully you found the session useful, and we'll see you on the next webinar.